War criminal Benjamin Netanyahu has traveled to Hungary on a 4-day visit, a country which is a member of the European Union and also a signatory to Rome Statute. This despite the fact that bloodthirsty terrorist Netanyahu is facing an arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court for war crimes.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has arrived in Hungary for a 4-day visit, defying an international criminal court arrest warrant issued over alleged war crimes in Gaza. Hungary, which is an ICC member, has refused to enforce the warrant. This is only the second time Mr. Netanyahu has travelled abroad since the warrant was issued in November. He went to the US in February.
Yes, this terrorist was first welcomed by members of the US Senate and Congress. He had received a thunderous applause for brutally massacring tens of thousands of children and babies.
But this is an exceptional moment. Fast-tracking US military aid can dramatically expedite an end to the war in Gaza and help prevent a broader war in the Middle East. In World War II, as Britain fought on the front lines of civilization, Winston Churchill appealed to Americans with these famous words: "Give us the tools and we'll finish the job." Today, as Israel fights on the front line of civilization, I too appeal to America. Give us the tools faster and we'll finish the job faster.
Now, the same baby killer is now being welcomed by another Western country. This should tell you everything about the support for genocide in the West. The fact that Hungary is a member of the European Union brings a collective shame for the whole of Europe. Hungary rolling out a red carpet for a war criminal has effectively announced the death of the ICC. This has also confirmed beyond doubt that the West is predominantly ruled by racist and genocidal thugs. And if you live in the UK and felt a bit proud, thinking that your government wouldn't do anything like the thugs of the US and Hungary have done, then think again. Even though the UK has a PM who built his career as a human rights lawyer, he is another supporter of Israel. In fact, hardcore supporter of Israel. Up until now, he has refused to clarify explicitly whether Netanyahu would be arrested in the UK if he sets his foot on British soil. This shouldn't have been a difficult question to answer, given that Starmer himself has been a seasoned human rights lawyer, and his Attorney General, Richard Hermer, has been a top British lawyer. This is what Starmer said in May last year, after the ICC prosecutor Karim Khan filed an application for an arrest warrant against Netanyahu.
I think the prosecutor has applied to the court, and the court has yet to make a decision, so the court will have to make that decision in due course. I respect their independence. I don't think there's any equivalence between Hamas and Israel. Hamas is a terrorist organisation. Israel has the right to self-defence, but I believe in international law, and I support the independence of both the prosecutor and the court, which will be called upon to make a decision in due course.
I understand that, but President Biden has called the arrest warrant, or the call for an arrest warrant, outrageous. Rishi Sunak has said it's deeply unhelpful. What's your take on it?
I think that the court should be able to come to its decision in due course. It's got the material before it. It will have to come to a decision. It's an independent court. We have signed up to the Rome Statute. I support the court and I support international law. The court will have to come to its decision.
But as Prime Minister, lots of people were looking to you for guidance. Where's your stance? I understand that you respect their independence, but you're a human rights lawyer. You've spent your career studying this sort of stuff. You must have a gut instinct. What would your message be?
My gut instinct is for this court, as with all courts, which is we have independent courts for a reason, outside of politics, so that they can make independent decisions. That is very important, the rule of law. I've believed in that all my life. I've fought for it around the globe. It matters internationally. I believe in international law. I believe in the independence of our courts. In due course, this court will have to make a decision in relation to these warrants.
Okay, and if we get to the point where warrants are issued, what then? Will you support them because you support the ICC?
Well, let's get to that point. Let's see what the decision is of the court, what warrants they grant, on what basis, but we haven't got to that point yet.
But if you're saying that you respect the ICC and their independence and what they come up with, surely then the next logical argument is if they say we want a warrant, you would back that then?
But I want to see the decision they make. I want to see what warrants they actually issue, what they don't. I'm not going to get into hypotheticals, what ifs down the road.
In November, this question ceased to become hypothetical as the ICC issued an arrest warrant for Netanyahu and his former defense minister, Yoav Gallant. Has Starmer issued a firm statement stating that his government would honor the ICC arrest warrant? No. When an MP asked him in the immediate aftermath of the arrest warrant whether his government would now consider imposing a ban on arms sale to Israel, Starmer's answer was, hell no. We stand with Israel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and of course we too welcome the ceasefire in Lebanon. But now that arrest warrants have been issued for his allies, Netanyahu and Gallant, the Prime Minister's determination to supply Israel with the weapons it requires to carry out its atrocities in Gaza, which has always been morally repugnant, is now completely untenable. But what these warrants would do is present him with a perfectly valid legal avenue by which he can end the UK's complicity in this slaughter. So will he do that, or will the Prime Minister continue to choose to licence F-35 components to a regime which is now led by a man wanted for war crimes and crimes against humanity?
We've set out our position under the current law, as he well knows. I've set out my position very, very clearly in relation to the sale of capability to Israel to defend itself against attacks such as those from Iran. And I'm very clear that we'll continue to do so.
Meanwhile, Israel continues to massacre Palestinians in Gaza with impunity. It has targeted several schools to slaughter dozens of children and babies who were taking shelter in those schools. According to reports, Israeli terrorists killed at least 112 more Palestinians today. And the world is silent. Why wouldn't they? After all, the victims of Israeli genocide are not white. Reacting to Israeli brutalities, Hamas said in a statement, and I quote, "The bombing of Dar al-Arqam school is a genocide committed by the occupation against displaced children and women. Targeting civilians and displaced people is part of the fascist occupation's deliberate policy of committing massacres against our people. The ongoing mass killing, starvation, forced evictions, and closure of crossings constitute a full-fledged crime of genocide. The US administration covers up the occupation's crimes politically and militarily and is a direct partner in the killing of our people and the destruction of Gaza. The international community's failure to stop the massacres reflects the moral and humanitarian collapse of its system. Arab and Islamic countries must take urgent action to stop the catastrophe and massacres being committed by the fascist occupation in Gaza." End quote. Israeli terrorists have also carried out more attacks on Syrian soil, despite mounting condemnation from across the region. But the Syrian regime, led by former ISIS terrorist al-Jolani, has refused to act. Instead, his supporters are now calling for the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians living in Syria. Do you still have any doubt that terrorist Jolani is not a plant by Israel and the US? Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you very much for your support of this platform and our journalism on buymeacoffee.com and Patreon. If you too think that our journalism is worth supporting, then you too should consider becoming part of it. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.